Mi nombre es Ralph el Demoledor.
¡Voy a demolerlo!
Llevo 30 años haciendo esto.
¡Puedo repararlo!
Es difícil amar tu trabajo, cuando parece que nadie te aprecia por hacerlo.
Solo eres el villano que destruye el edificio.
Estoy bien.
Why do you think that Joe Jump was canceled at that time, 10 to 15 years ago, and that it was rescued right now?
Well, I'm not sure because I've never seen anything that they did on Joe Jump. You know, I know the name of it, and I know at Disney they've had an idea for a video game movie. They've been wanting to do a video game movie for a long time, and I think it began in the '90s as something called Game On, and then that was shelved. That was put on the shelf because they couldn't crack the story on it. And then on Joe Jump, I think a similar thing happened. You know, that they worked on a story and ultimately felt like it wasn't a story worth making into a movie. So that was put on the shelf. And I began working at Disney in 2008, about 4 years ago. I was invited by John Lasseter to come in and develop ideas for movies. John likes to hear lots of different ideas for movies from directors when they're developing. And John's an old friend, also an old colleague. And he mentioned to me, hey, you know, we've been trying to do a movie about video games for a long time, and we just recently, you know, put it back on the shelf because we couldn't crack it. So maybe just think as one of your pitches to consider maybe, you know, thinking about a story about video games. And I said, well, do I need to look at the old material? Do you want me to look at, you know, what was done before? And he said, no, just you know, just think video games, you know, what a movie about that. And I said, okay, you know, that sounds good. And I fell in love with this idea of a character having a very kind of personal, existential crisis, you know, wondering, you know, is this all there is in life? You know, is this all I do? Is one job every day that I'm programmed to do? And he's like a little character in a video game, you know, because they have no free will. You know, they're programmed and they have to do, you know, exactly what the computer tells them to do. And I like that idea of a very kind of internal, you know, problem that our main character is having in this big kind of fantastic world of video games. And that was kind of the genesis of the whole idea.
Si soy honesto conmigo mismo, le va mejor al bueno, ¿no es así?
Ralph, eres malo, pero no significa que seas malo.
¿Sí?
Ya no estoy dispuesto a ser el villano.
Ralph abandonó su juego.
Bienvenidos a la estación central de juegos.
¡Villano a la vista!
Todo cambiará ahora.
And technically speaking, how difficult was it to create so many worlds, so many characters, and also with all the cameos from video game characters, and to join them in just one film?
Well, it's technically it's not as hard as it is. Just kind of it says, you know, you can make it as big as your imagination will allow it. So my goal was to have a movie with several different game worlds in it, and I wanted them to be true and authentic to those different genres that we know those games to be. So the challenge was me talking to the designers, the animators, the lighters, the camera people, to always stay kind of true instead of letting the movie become, a lot of times in animated films, and most times in animated films, everything kind of becomes one style along the way of making the movie, and it becomes very kind of homogenized. And that's good because it makes the the movie and the world look like it's all coming from one place. But in this movie, you know, like I said, I made a decision to make the worlds look different. So what normally happens wasn't supposed to happen. I'm the one trying to say, like, no, don't. I want Sugar Rush different from Fix-It Felix world, and a Hero's Duty world should be different from Sugar Rush. So it's kind of like pushing against something that naturally wants to happen, you know, in a movie. But once everyone kind of understood what we were doing, we were able to kind of get a different look for each world, and all those different kinds of animation styles and lighting styles within the movie.
Well, Bolt and Tangle were very well received some years ago, and well, Wreck-It Ralph is going to be a big hit. Do you think that Disney is approaching a new golden age of animation?
Well, that's very nice of you to say that. I think there's definitely something of a renaissance going on within the studio. Like I say, I began working there 4 years ago, and I've seen a lot of change just in those 4 years. You know, we have the best animators in the world working at the studio, fantastic designers, artists, technicians, from top to bottom. Everyone is great, and everyone is very hungry, you know, to make great films again. So I would not be surprised, you know, if we are moving into another golden age or another kind of renaissance for the studio, because the people, speaking as someone from inside the studio, we're all very, very excited to make great movies, you know, and tell great stories and make them look beautiful.
Will Wreck-It Ralph give Disney an Oscar for Best Animated Feature?
Oh, an Oscar. Well, again, here's hoping. Well, we'll see, you know. I think it's beautiful to look at, you know. I think the characters, I love the characters, you know. I think I care about the characters a lot. I think the story's got a lot of heart. I think it's very funny. So, you know, all those things together sound pretty good. So maybe, yeah, maybe it will. I'll talk to you in about 4 months.
Yeah. I hope so. And as a last question, some people say that some films, well, in Disney are for girls, like The Princesses, and others for boys. But Wreck-It Ralph combines both worlds. Was it difficult also to make a film for both audiences?
No. My background is from shows like The Simpsons, and the approach on The Simpsons was always make a good show, you know, not a show for girls, a show for boys, or a show for children, or a show for adults. You know, there was always something for everybody, you know, in The Simpsons, and that's my background. And those are the kinds of things that I like. You know, my first movie that I saw as a little boy was The Jungle Book, way back when, and I remember seeing that movie in the theaters with my brother, my sister, my parents, my grandmother, and everybody liked it. You know, it wasn't just for me, and everyone else was kind of, everyone in the family liked it. And we talked about it on the way home in the car. So that's what I've loved from a very early age, you know, and those are the types of movies that I like to make and the types of shows I like to make.
¿Cómo te llamas?
Ralph el Demoledor.
¿Eres un vagabundo?
Trato de ser bueno.
Trato de ser bueno.
Estás imitándome.
Estás imitándome.
Es grosero.
Es grosero.
Y esta conversación se terminó.
Ya terminó.
I get a good feeling, yeah.